Hello and welcome to this Oak Tree English video on transactional writing for GCSE, functional skills and life. Let's define our terms. What is transactional writing? Transactional writing is non-fiction writing that aims to communicate information. Now, this can take a number of forms, including articles, like you may find in a newspaper or magazine, or used to when those things were real. Guides, like you get when you visit National Trust properties. Letters, which may be formal to your bank manager or informal to your mum, depending on the intended audience. A speech or a talk, which will usually have a less formal style of presentation. Reviews of things like films, books, albums, websites, etc. And reports, which are very factual and don't allow for very much descriptive or emotional language, but give you license to make up statistics. As with any piece of writing, there is a procedure to get the best results. First and foremost, read the question, whether that's a brief or whether it's an exam question. It doesn't matter if you write the best English since Shakespeare. If it doesn't do what your examiner or your boss or your editor has asked for, it will not achieve the desired result. Then identify your audience so that you can adapt your language, style and tone accordingly. Next, plan your answer. Remember that failure to prepare is to prepare to fail. Once your plan is in place and matches your brief, you can write your transactional piece. Finally, you should leave time at the end to check your work for any obvious errors. Let's take an example from the EDUCAS Summer 2019 GCSE English Language Component 2 exam. It tells you what you're generally assessed on, in this case, the quality of your writing skills. It tells you more specifically how you can get marks, in this case 12 marks for content and 8 for VOSPAG, vocabulary, spelling, punctuation and grammar. It tells you how long your writing should be, in this case 300 to 400 words. It tells you what format you should write in this case a review. It tells you who your audience is, in this case a teenage magazine. It tells you your topic, in this case a book, film or TV program. It even gives you a concluding point to aim at, in this case why it might appeal to your audience. So you see there's plenty to write about. Regular Oak Tree English acorns will recognise this information from other videos, but it bears repeating. Audience can be analysed on a kind of matrix, along with style of writing. One axis runs from formal to informal, determining how much slang or contractions one might use. The other axis runs from personal to impersonal, depending on how many people you're talking to. If it's a general audience, such as a talk or a report, it is impersonal. If it's written to one individual recipient, such as a letter or an email, then it's personal. The review, for example, falls into impersonal and informal. The purpose of the text will fall into one of 4 rough groups: persuasive, informative, descriptive, or instructive, or PIDI for short. Persuasive would include any advertising material. Informative would be something that gives information, such as a health and safety poster at work. Descriptive texts describe, such as a guidebook for an art gallery. Instructive is almost anything published by IKEA, instructing people how to put their shoe rack together. other furniture is available from IKEA. There will often be some overlap between the groups. A review, for example, is informative, descriptive, and sometimes even persuasive, depending on what has been asked for. You will all take into the exam a reminder of how to plan. You can't take notes into an exam room, and please don't try, but you can take yourself. Your hand can remind you of the 5-point plan. Your first paragraph will be your introduction, where you hook your reader with something like a rhetorical question and set the tone and topic of the piece of writing. This is followed by 3 main body paragraphs, each with a supporting point. Finally, you will have a concluding paragraph, which sums up what you've already said. A good thing to remember is, tell them what you're going to tell them, tell them what you've told them. There are many ways to plan, but most people fall into 2 broad categories, planning like an artist or planning like a lawyer. An artist may draw a mind map with the topic in the middle and ideas for the main body paragraphs in thought bubbles around it. This can help to get all the ideas out of your mind and onto paper to be arranged as you write. A lawyer will typically take a more methodical approach and design their writing in a numbered or bulleted list with notes on what they're going to say and how they intend to say it. It may be wise to include some devices at this planning stage. So don't neglect to put them in when writing. This is things like the DeForest devices, direct speech, alliteration, facts, opinions, etc. Which brings us to the actual writing. Here, I would like to encourage you to use standard English. There is a temptation to write as you talk or use highly stylized formulations like disjointed words. For example, horror, abject horror, catastrophe beyond words, a gnawing shame of disappointment, all of which paints a clear picture but has neither a subject nor a verb, and thus is not grammatical English. As my poor, long-suffering parents told my rebellious teenage self, play it straight. You can express yourself more flamboyantly outside the exam hall. If you're writing by hand, make sure your writing is legible. An examiner will not give top marks if he can't read it. Finally, you should leave 5 minutes at the end to read through your work and check your spag, illustrated here by this Yeti, which I have not asked Pixar's permission to use, so please don't tell them. SPAG stands for, as I'm sure you know, spelling, punctuation and grammar. I do have videos about each of these things, but just reading it back should pick out most mistakes naturally. You should pay special attention to basic things like I before E, full stops and capital letters, and checking each sentence has a subject and a verb and makes sense. So, if you analyse the question, identify your audience, plan your work, write clearly and check your spag, you should be able to produce a very good piece of transactional writing. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If so, please remember to like, share and subscribe to Oak Tree English. Thanks for watching.